Welcome back to the Untriggered Parenting Podcast with me, Paula Sampson-Lawrence, the space where we talk openly and honestly about raising children without losing ourselves in the process. Today, we are diving into an important and timely conversation, the mental health crisis facing our children. With anxiety, stress, and pressure showing up earlier and earlier, many of us parents are left wondering, what can we actually do to protect our kids' well-being? My guest today believes the answer lies in something beautifully simple: trusting our children enough to explore their true passions and positioning ourselves not as controllers of their lives, but as guides on their journey. So we'll be unpacking what it looks like in everyday parenting, how to overcome our fears as mums and dads, and the powerful impact this shift can have on the next generation. Let's dive in. So welcome, Abi, to this week's show. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. So I am Abi Clarke. I am an ex-teacher and I left teaching for many, many reasons, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But I left teaching sort of hating education and just wanting nothing to do with it anymore. And then I found myself in a Montessori nursery, and I did my Montessori training, and I was like, well, this is how children deserve to be brought up and educated. It was like mind-blowing. It aligned with all my parenting morals. And I was just like, this is where I need to be. I have two kids of my own. So one is 8 and one is 2. And I don't like bananas. So that's about me.
Excellent. I love that last one. I'm just gonna hop right in because one of the things I think that you also find important is sort of this mental health crisis. It's a big thing at the moment, and people are looking for different ways to how can we combat this? What can parents do in the home, hopefully to help our children? There's more stress, anxiety, pressures in everyday life. And I feel like your solution is so sort of beautifully simple, and it's just trusting our children to be able to follow their passions, have more self-directed learning, and that ultimately improves their mental well-being and has an overall positive effect. So I would love to start with just that big picture. And how does giving children the space to sort of, follow their own creative passions, how does that strengthen their mental well-being?
So the big reason I left teaching was because my first class was a year 1 class, so 5 and 6, and they were so hungry for learning. They were so like desperate for more and more information. And then I moved to year 4 at the same time that they moved to year 4. So I had my same class again, and I was so excited to have them again. But what I actually found was a group of children that was so turned off learning, and so like the times table test would come out and half the girls would just go, like they just checked out. They just didn't want to do it anymore. So I started asking myself, like, what has happened in these years? Like, that's just, no one should be saying they hate learning. It's really good for our brains to learn. And what I could pick out was that children are constantly being told in school, they're constantly getting this message directly and indirectly: you are not good enough. You didn't make the standard. You didn't reach where you were supposed to be. And that is through testing, through the pressure that is put down on them, to the daily micro. So we used to have to, for every lesson, give them a success criteria and then say, at the end of this lesson, you must be able to do this, you should be able to do this, and you could be able to do this. So everyone had to reach that must. And what if you didn't? Like and then times that by what, 4 times a day? Over a week, that could be so many times that they've been like get that message that, oh, I'm not good enough. And that's going to obviously have like a snowball effect on our mental health. And I also think that having been then into a Montessori school, and it's totally child-led. Montessori is like if you do anything with Montessori, it's follow the child. And what a gift that is for them, because they can follow their passions. They can choose today that they're going to spend the whole day on the maths shelf, for example, and they can follow that, and they can know what it's like to succeed and to self drive their learning. So once they've done one activity, they can move on to the next one, and they get to make those decisions for themselves. And again, what a gift! The amount of children that we're like, parents that are struggling with behavior and things, and a lot of the time it comes down to, well, do they have much say in what they're actually doing in their lives?
Exactly.
Like, how much
Agree.
control do they have?
Yes.
So yeah, they're just trusting them, and it takes a lot of trust, because most of us have been through the school system ourselves. The societal accepted norm is that we go through a school system. Teachers are the ones that are qualified to teach their children, and they are.
Yes.
Like, I'm not saying that they're not, but you are also as a parent. And that is what I am trying to get people to, like, that's a big hurdle for people to believe, is that actually I can do that, because I am good enough to do that, because they are your child. You are the expert in your child.
Absolutely. I said that all the time.
Yeah. And really, really trusting them is hard, but it is so worthwhile, and it's so good for them. Yeah.
I completely agree. And so I'm going to throw at you a hard question now, because I feel like some of the parents listening will be going, yes, exactly. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But how do I do that at home? How can we sort of guide them, as opposed to be the one telling them what to do all the time?
So your job is to be, we call it a guide. So in a Montessori classroom, you're not a teacher, you're a guide, or you're a directress, which is a word I don't like so much. But your job isn't to sit back and just literally let them do what they want. Your job is to be really skilled in observing them and learn how to properly observe them for who they are, not through any of our parenting lenses, and not who we want them to be, because I think that is something that we naturally do. And once you can learn that skill, which is absolutely, it's such a beautiful skill for them, but for you as well. It's so magical to be able to watch those tiny little moments and think, oh, no one else is ever going to see that. That's my little moment. Once you learn to observe them, you'll be able to pick out what skills they need some support with. And then your job is to provide that for them. I can give you an example. I tutored for a little boy who was he did not want to learn. He was so against it, because he had that ingrained, I'm not good enough. I can tell that my friends are better than me at all of this, so I'm going to check out completely. And after a few weeks, I managed to work out he really liked animals. And so the rest of that summer holidays, we spent the time making a zoo. And so many skills came out of that. We learned perimeter, we learned area, we learned information text, spelling, composition of texts. He did map reading. He did so many things, and all of those skills were interweaved. But he wanted to do it because it was about his love of animals, and he learned about geography and what the animals needed to eat and how to care for them. And it did all of those things for him, but it also gave him a bit of confidence back, and it also gave him that spark of, I actually do like learning. I just need to do it in my way that suits me.
Absolutely. I love that story. Yes, exactly. And I think that it's just giving parents that tools, I suppose, to believe that they can create an environment at home where their child can discover new things, almost like a lab sort of thing of learning new things and discovering new things. But I do feel like a lot of parents will still have that sort of mental block, because it's a range of different things, isn't it? It's cultural expectations, is how we've been brought up. And it's hard to let go of control, because one of the things in society is that we're judged as parents, especially as mothers. If your child is out and they're crying or throwing a tantrum, everyone's sort of waving their finger at you that you're a bad mother. So it's really hard to let go of that control.
It absolutely is,
exactly. And have and unlearn basically everything that we've learned. So how do we overcome those limiting beliefs? Like, what do we need to keep telling ourselves?
I think it's in the small moments, and it is a process. And with all of my training and all of my beliefs, I still I'm considering at the moment whether I'd take the leap into home educating my daughter. And I still the other day caught myself thinking, I don't know if I can do that. Of course I can.
Yeah.
And so can every parent. But you're right. The ability to let go is just that little, I think, take it slowly and take it step by step. And maybe one day you let them decide where you're going out for the day, or you let them make a decision about what's for dinner, and they help you make it. And or one of the best things that you can do is, and this is quite hard as well for people in like role play situations, let them be the teacher and just actually follow what they say. Because my daughter likes to do a lot of this, of the role playing, being a teacher, and I often do rebel in that situation. I become the naughty one, and actually, if I sit back and I actually do everything she says, it's so fulfilling for her and for me, because it's an exercise in letting go a little bit. And
you know what I think is also really important is surrounding yourself with people who also share the same philosophy, right? Because sometimes it can be so isolating if you're the only one that sort of believes in certain things. I'll give you an example. I'm from a traditional sort of African Nigerian background, and in that culture, schooling is very important. Education is everything, and you can only be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. So there's like literally 4 things that you can be. So if you come along and say, I want to be an artist, it's seen as the parent's job to go, no, let's go this way, So it's what you have to surround yourself with people who go, I get what you're trying to do, I understand it, because then that gives the parent more confidence to sort of go forward. Otherwise, you constantly feel like you're doing something wrong, even when it's right,
And that's not a nice feeling.
Exactly. It's not a nice feeling, and it makes you doubt yourself. And one thing you can't do when you're trying to guide children is doubt, because they're going to pick up on that energy, really. So I thought that was just a little thing that I thought of.
Absolutely,
But before we move on, I wanted to just ask, how did you overcome that hurdle with your year 4 kids? Like, how did you get, now that they've sort of got to that point where they're not engaged, they're not excited, what did you do to get them sort of over the hump of that?
I tried to make it fun. So the one that I always go to is the times tables, and every week they would get their strip of paper, and we'd give them 60 seconds, and they had to answer as many as they could.
Yeah, I hate that. Sorry. My daughter hated doing that.
Timers are just pressure, right? If there's a timer on me, my brain will literally just go,
nope.
Nothing. There's nothing in here anymore.
Exactly.
So there were some kids that absolutely loved it, so they got to still do it. But I would say if I had any support in the class, can you just take them and do it in a fun way, like and mix it up and find a way that works for you? And I'd find lots of ways, but ultimately I was working against a system that wasn't allowing me to do what I needed to do. And that's why I just kind of ran away with nothing to go to. I was like, I can't do this.
You just can't. So I think obviously, I'm sure you were burnt out. A lot of teachers talk about being burnt out, but the other thing is just feeling that your hands are tied and not being able to sort of teach these children in a way that sort of works. There's all these other red tape things. But
absolutely. And I think also I probably didn't know how to teach in a different way at that point. I think when you're doing your teacher training, it's like, yes, there's like all these different theories that you learn, but really it's kind of, this is how you do it. And then when you're in the system, because you're so burnt out and you're so full of just getting through the day-to-day and firefighting each day, you don't really have much scope to look at outwards and go, there must be a different way. So whilst I tried, I kind of felt like maybe I didn't have the knowledge at that point. And so that's when Montessori really opened my eyes, and I was like,
amazing. But I would love for you to now talk about the long-term vision. What could this way of teaching, of parenting, what could it open up for us in terms of our children, the future of mental health of our children, our relationships with our children and teachers? What could that vision look like?
I would really love it if more schools could take on this approach. And there are little tiny little hints of us moving in the right direction. So I learned of a school yesterday that's quite close to me that up until year 2 they're doing play-based curriculum. I was like,
yay,
amazing. And I learned about another school a few months ago that they took all the furniture away from a year 5 classroom, and the children got to sit at a standing desk or sit on bean bags, and their engagement was through the roof. For the long term, I go from like these are amazing things to just complete like frustration with the education system, because
Yes,
it
yes.
goes so much higher than any like it's a societal belief and it's politics and it's yeah. So that's why I'm really trying to work with parents at home
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get and try to do that unlearning that we spoke about, and the radical
Yes,
sort of trust in our children, and
yes.
empowering parents to know that they can do it and give them a few skills so that they feel like they can go and do it. And I think it can have such a huge difference to these children, because they're going to learn what they want to learn. They're going to get all those other things in there. They just will, because the human race didn't get to where we are without
Mhm.
that curiosity and that
That's
natural
true.
need to learn.
So true.
Um, so it's like it is a radical sort of unlearning and
Yeah.
trust. But I really think it can make such a huge difference. I think, yeah,
100%.
children,
100%.
when you think some of the most successful people in the world were doing child-led learning, like
Mhm.
the guy who made Google,
Yeah.
I think like some of the most successful, amazing people, whether we agree with, I think the guy, is it Jeff Bezos from Amazon?
Yes. Yeah,
He
yeah.
was Montessori. Whether we agree with
Yeah.
them or not, that we can't deny that they're
You can't deny it.
successful.
Right,
And
right, exactly.
like Beyonce, I think was as well.
Yeah.
So to be, and it's just being able to make decisions for yourself, because that's
Yeah.
what they're constantly being able to actually
Mhm.
decide, and self-assured, and it's magical.
It really is. And it
Yeah.
literally gives me chills because I feel like children come away with what's my purpose? This sense of
Mm,
purpose as opposed to all it is pressure. You've got to do this in 60
yeah.
seconds. You've got to pass that exam. You've got to get A, B, C's, whatever, and life is about purpose. Who wants to live a life of just pressure?
And when you
Nobody.
look at, I'm also a networking leader, so I work with a lot of, I meet a lot of women that have said no to their corporate jobs and no to
Yeah.
their whatever they were doing before, and now they're following their passion, and they're so
Mm.
much happier. And
Yeah.
like, I think sometimes people think that happiness is not a very important thing. It's all about the money and the stuff, and
Hmm.
the more that we have, the more happy we'll get. But actually, I think you need to work on the happiness first. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Because otherwise, even if you got all the money in the world, you still would not be happy. How
yeah,
many people do we know, celebrities who
yeah,
who show us that? But before I finish up, I would love for
yeah.
you to tell the listeners more about where they can find out more about you, anything you have coming up, how they can work with you and get in touch with you.
So I have my website is
Which I
sparkguideggrow.com.
love, by the way. Love that.
And I'm on Instagram as I am Abi Spark, and you'll find other things on there as well. So that will take you to the Facebook and things like that. I'm not sure when this will air, but I have something coming up.
Hopefully tomorrow, if I
Oh,
can
okay.
put my big girl pants on and get editing.
So the end of September, I am organising I'm calling it a parenting conference, but it's more like an online festival. But there are
Oh.
around 35 speakers. It's such a huge range of different things that we're talking about. It's from like ADHD to other neurodivergence to like sleep support, how to work with your school so that you've got a
Mm.
nice relationship. There's
Yeah.
occupational therapists on there. And there's a marketplace, and it's over a whole week on a Facebook group, 20-minute talks, and it's at £10 a ticket. So there's that as well.
Amazing. But I'll make sure I get all the links and put
Okay,
them
yeah,
in the
yeah,
show notes for
yeah.
that. But
Oh,
we're finished for today. But thank
oh,
you
thank you
so
so
much
much.
for coming on and sharing that lovely vision because I'm 100% on board with that. And you know how we say children are the future? I actually
It's
think
true.
the
Yeah,
future is the parents and the teachers
yeah.
and the educators who are working so hard to change what was and bring in something new, what is. So thank you for everything that you do and thanks for chatting with me today.
Thank you very much for having me.